Vivana Cairo grew up in this tiny village tucked away between mountains, where time seemed to move super slow and life was simple. Pretty much a chill routine with no big surprise. Mornings showed up with birds singing, and the folks there lived in harmony with nature, trusting this old balance that kept everything peaceful. But like every story that messes with fate, that calm was just an illusion, waiting to get shattered. When the Shadow Lords invaded, bringing nothing but destruction and fear, Vivana's world flipped upside down in seconds. The memory of that brutal attack still burns in her mind. Houses on fire, screams echoing through the trees, and that crushing feeling of helplessness. The ground she knew turned to ashes, and what was left of her family faded away like a fragile dream. But right in the middle of that worst moment, something inside her started to wake up. An ancient, mysterious energy, like some old force had been triggered to protect her. It was the power of Aurora, a force nobody there knew she had, a power that could change everything. As the fire swallowed the village's last hopes, Vivana felt the first spark of that power rushing through her vein. It was confusing, even scary, because she had no clue what it was or how to control it. Fear hit hard, the kind that freezes you, whispering that it's all over. But inside her chest, a flame also lit up, a fierce will to fight, to not let the darkness swallow what was left of her world. It was destiny calling, a mission she never chose, but now had no choice but to embrace. At first, Aurora's energy was a mystery to Vivana, a puzzle she tried to figure out alone, tears and doubts. Every time she tried to use it, it felt like she was dancing on the edge of a cliff, about to fall at any moment. But there was also hope, an invisible thread holding her and guiding her. The ancient secrets tied to her bloodline began to reveal themselves in fragments, like clues left by those who came before her. Those who also faced the hidden forces now hunting. Days went by and she started training solo, testing the limits of her newly found power. Vivana remembered the stories her grandma told her about ancient warriors who kept the balance between light and shadow. Now she had to be one of those warriors, even if she didn't fully get what that meant yet. The sacrifice would be huge, she knew that, and the choices she'd have to make might come at a big cost. But it was the only shot at stopping the darkness from swallowing what was left of the world. The attacks from those hidden forces didn't let up, and every day was a quiet battle for Vivana. She was slowly turning into a rebel with a clear mission: fight back against the invasion threatening to swallow Aurora's light and snuff out all hope. She felt the weight of responsibility like an invisible armor, sometimes crushing, but also making her stronger. There was an old call in her blood, a deep connection with a power only the chosen could feel. And she was starting to understand that her fate was tied to this ancient force. Despite the fear and loneliness, Vivana found a strength inside her she never knew she had. It was like Aurora's energy was a reflection of her own soul, bright, untamable, and ready to face whatever came her way. She knew she couldn't look back anymore or let herself break, because the sacrifice waiting for her was inevitable. So, with a heavy heart but full of determination, she took the first steps on a journey that would change everything. That night, under a starry sky, Vivana made a silent promise to herself: protect the light, even if it meant facing the darkest shadows. She wasn't just a village girl anymore. Now she was an Aurora warrior, meant to defy cruel fate and the hidden forces trying to wipe out her world. The power inside her still needed taming, but her spirit was already blazing, ready for battle. And so, standing on the edge between lost childhood and an uncertain future, Vivana Cairo woke up to something bigger than she ever imagined. The darkness around her path was terrifying, yeah, but hope was beating strong in her chest. Little did she know, That night was just the start of an epic fight, full of ancient secrets, painful sacrifices, and decisions that would push her courage to the limit. Destiny was calling, and there was no running away. The sun had barely started rising when Vivana Cairo decided she couldn't just wait for fate to knock on her door anymore. The smell of smoke still hung in the air of the ruined village, and the ashes were cold reminders of what used to be her home. She pulled her worn cloak tighter around her shoulders and clenched her fist, feeling Aurora's energy pulse low, like a drum announcing something big was coming. No more denying it. It was time to leave behind what was left and move forward, even if she had no clue where the road was headed. With her backpack strapped on, packed with the few things left, Vivana walked toward the dense forest surrounding the village. Her heart was pounding fast, not just from the walk, but from that mix of fear and hope only someone about to face the unknown really knows. She knew it wouldn't be an easy walk. The world outside the village was different, and the place was packed with dark forces that wanted to snuff out Aurora's light for good. Every step Vivana took was a choice, a brave move, and a fight against the shadows trying to close in on her. Right from the jump, Vivana knew this trip wasn't just about walking through the woods. It was a battle inside herself too. The power growing inside her needed control and focus, and one slip-up could cost her big time. Voices from her past kept ringing in her head. Her grandma, the elders, those stories about the ancient guardians. Everything felt alive, dropping hints and lessons to handle the dangers ahead. It was like the Aurora's power wasn't just raw strength, but a legacy full of secrets only the toughest could crack. As she pushed forward, the forest's silence was sliced by the crack of twigs and leaves whispering in the wind. Vivana felt invisible eyes watching every move she made, and adrenaline was burning through her like wildfire on her skin. Dark forces were everywhere, ready to strike when she least expected it, which just made her more determined to master her power and protect whatever was left to save. She knew sacrifice was coming, but every step was a tiny breath of hope against the spreading ruin. Taking a break by a clear creek, Vivana thought about everything she'd left behind. Friends, family, simple dreams, and the heavy load she now carried. Being Aurora's guardian felt almost crushing, but inside her, a quiet voice whispered this was the price of hope. She had to accept she couldn't just be a survivor anymore. She had to be a warrior, a light in the dark, a symbol for everyone still believing in the power of light against the shadows. Personal sacrifice was the only currency to pay this debt to destiny. As day turned into night, stars started shining like quiet witnesses to the promise this young warrior had made. Vivana didn't know what the future held, but she felt a deep connection to something bigger. A powerful, ancient force guiding and protecting her, even in the darkest times. The Aurora's power wasn't just a weapon, it was a bridge between past and future, between ancient secrets and the hope she carried in her heart. Every step into the dark was a step toward the light's rebirth. By the end of her first night out of the village, as she lit a small fire to keep warm, Vivana sensed something out there. A quick movement in the trees that wasn't any animal. That chill crawling down her spine wasn't just the cold, but the clear sign that the dark forces had already started the hunt. The challenge was real, the fight was just kicking off, and she had to be ready for whatever came next. Destiny didn't give breaks, and choosing to keep moving forward was itself an act of resistance against the eclipse threatening the world. With every step she took in the darkness, Vivana realized she wasn't alone anymore. The Aurora's energy pulsed inside her and somehow attracted both allies and enemies, blurring the line between friend and threat. The path was rough and full of unknowns, but her warrior spirit grew stronger with every test, every encounter, and every sacrifice looming on the horizon. What started as a lonely journey was about to reveal ancient secrets that would change everything, putting her right in the middle of an epic battle where hope would be the last weapon standing. At first light, Vivanna got up determined, ready to face whatever the unknown threw at her next. The weight of the past still followed her, but now she carried something greater: the power of the Aurora and the promise to fight till the end. No matter how hard the shadows tried to take her down, she knew her destiny was to be the flame that stands strong in the storm, the guardian of hope, and the symbol of a rebirth the world desperately needed. The adventure was just starting, and the sacrifice would be real, but Vivanna was ready for the war ahead. Vivanna barely took her first steps into the forest when she heard a weird sound from the bushes. A whisper, a snap, something that didn't fit the heavy silence. She froze, pulling her cloak tighter against the creeping cold of night. The Aurora's aura inside her buzzed with alertness, like the forest was trying to tell her it wasn't as empty as it seemed. Suddenly, a figure slipped out of the shadows, eyes sharp as hers, and a sly grin on a battle-worn face. It was Riven, a rogue warrior known for walking the line between light and dark, someone who could be friend or foe, depending on the day. Riven had stories no one in the village would believe if they heard them. He talked about ancient wars, ancestral secrets, and dark forces corrupting everything around. Unlike Vivanna, he didn't carry the pure hope of the Aurora, but a tough, stone-cold skepticism that kept his heart locked and his mind sharp. Their meeting was a mix of suspicion and curiosity, each trying to figure out if the other was an ally or just another threat on the dangerous road ahead. But when a black shadow lunged at them, the fight pulled them together for good. Together, Vivanna and Riven fought like they were extensions of each other, their skills blending in a wild dance between light and shadow. Riven's sacrifice at just the right moment let Vivanna unleash her power more freely, proving that despite their differences, there was a spark of something bigger, a bond that might just turn the tide in this quiet war against the dark forces. Every strike, that dice was like an unspoken promise that they wouldn't quit, that hope still had room to grow even in the ruins of the world they knew. After the fight, once the adrenaline died down and silence took over again, Riven started sharing what he knew about the secrets surrounding the Aurora and its energy. He talked about a group called the Sentinels of the Aurora, guardians who disappeared after an eclipse that changed everything. According to him, Vivanna was the key to bringing that order back and stopping the darkness from swallowing the light that still shined. That revelation hit her hard, stirring a mix of fear and determination, because now she knew her personal sacrifice wasn't just about herself, but the fate of everyone. As they moved through the forest together, Vivanna realized she needed more than just strength and courage. She needed allies who understood how deep and complicated what was coming really was. People who could fight side by side and unlock ancient secrets passed down for generations. The forest was just the start of a journey that would test not only their bodies, but their souls and minds too. Meeting Riven showed her that even in the middle of darkness, there was light, and unlikely alliances could be the hope they desperately needed. The next day, when sunlight started peeking through the treetops, another surprise showed up. Ilara, a young thief with a mysterious past and eyes full of both pain and courage, appeared out of nowhere. She'd heard rumors about the young warrior of the Aurora and saw in her a chance to redeem her own soul, marked by past mistakes. Despite her natural distrust, Vivanna felt an instant connection with Ilara, a spark that told her together they could face anything, even the sacrifices waiting ahead. Ilara brought skills Vivanna didn't have, knowledge of the underworld and the hidden forces moving in the shadows. Her past was full of losses and personal battles, making her a valuable ally, someone who knew the price of sacrifice and hope and was ready to fight to rescue a forgotten legacy. The chemistry between them was clear, a mix of respect and need only people facing the unknown could get. What started as a lonely journey was turning into a mission for a team carrying the weight of the world on their backs. Days went by, and Vivana, Riven, and Ilara started uncovering ancient secrets hidden in the forest ruins, clues pointing to a bigger truth about the Aurora's origin and each of their roles in that destiny. Every discovery pushed them closer to the light's rebirth, but also confirmed that the hidden forces were nearer than they thought. Sacrifice seemed inevitable, and the tension grew with the knowledge that the war for the world's soul was just beginning. The group began trusting each other in ways that felt unlikely at first, building a brotherhood made not just of power, but hope, courage, and a deep understanding that together they could even challenge the eclipse threatening their existence. Vivana felt that even with all the doubts and dangers, she was on the right path. Destiny wasn't just a burden, it was a call to fight and stand firm, even when everything seemed lost. That unlikely alliance had become the last flame standing against the creeping ruin. With the sky turning red at sunset, the trio found shelter in an old crypt, where ancient symbols and runes glowed with Aurora's energy. It was a clear sign they were in the right place for the mission's next step, and the weight of future sacrifice felt heavier than ever. But there was also a growing feeling of hope and strength, like the Guardian's legacy was waking inside them. Ready for a comeback, no one could stop. The future was uncertain, but the battle had already started, and they were ready to fight till the end. Inside that crypt, where Aurora's light pulsed faintly, Vivana felt the heavy silence fill the air. Those ancient symbols, glowing with almost living energy, held ancestral secrets that could change everything she believed in. As her fingers traced the inscriptions on the walls, waves of memories that weren't hers flooded her mind. Flashes of old battles, sacrifices made by those who came before, and the fate of a lineage that should never have vanished. It felt like past and present were tangled in an invisible web, where every choice could rewrite the future. Riven stood beside her, eyes carrying decades of skepticism, but also a spark of hope. He revealed that the eclipse that fell on the world wasn't just a natural event, but the work of hidden forces wanting to erase the Aurora forever. He said the sentinels of the Aurora's lineage held a powerful secret, a source of energy that could restore balance, but that power came at a price too high to ignore. The sacrifice for those who chose to fight would be unavoidable, and the cost might be their very souls. Ilara, the thief, carrying her own dark past, was there too, feeling the weight of the choice ahead. Her life of losses and tough decisions taught her that the right path isn't always the easiest one. She knew that to save what hope was left, they'd have to embrace sacrifice without any promise of winning. That truth shook her heart, stirring doubts and fears she tried to hide behind her tough, fearless attitude. But there, in that crypt, they all understood something big was coming. Silent crypt, reality hit hard. The future depended on the choices made right at that moment. The trio stumbled upon this ancient artifact, the Key of Destiny, a relic that could unlock the power of the Aurora, but only if someone accepted its burden. Vivana felt an instant connection, like the key knew she was the guardian meant to carry the legacy. It was a call to face not just outside forces, but the battles within. Fear versus courage, doubt versus faith. Her destiny was written in the stars, but the will to fight still had to be proven, step by step in the dark. As they hashed out their next move, the sense of urgency kept growing. The dark forces were already on their way, and the total eclipse was closing in, promising a time of ruin if they didn't act fast. Hope was riding on their choices and the strength of the alliance they'd built. Riven, despite his past full of tough calls, was ready to fight beside Vivana, accepting that personal sacrifice was the price to keep the legacy's flame alive. Ilara silently promised she wouldn't let darkness win, even if it meant risking everything. But it wasn't just the world on the line. Each of them faced their own inner demons. Vivana wrestled with the fear of losing the ones she loved. Riven battled the guilt he'd carried for years, and Ilara searched for redemption from mistakes that haunted her like shadows in her heart. Those inner fights were as intense as the external battles, and the sacrifice they'd have to make wasn't just physical. It was emotional and spiritual, pushing each of them to their limits. Amid all these revelations and conflicts came a choice that would shape their mission's path. Vivana had to decide whether to take on the burden of wielding the key of destiny, knowing it could mean giving up the life she'd known. It was a decision that tested her role as guardian and her desire to protect the hope still beating in the world. Riven and Ilara were ready to back her up, but knew that this choice was hers alone, a cross only she could carry. As the eclipse started casting its shadows over the land, time felt like it was shrinking. The tension between what was possible and what had to be done created a heavy vibe where every second counted. Vivana felt the presence of the hidden forces closing in, and her heart pounded with the certainty that sacrifice was near. Everyone's fate depended on that night, and the line between ruin and resurgence was thinner than ever. Right then, Riven's words echoed in Vivana's mind. Real power ain't about dodging sacrifice, but accepting it's part of who we are. Only then can light beat the dark. Those words hit like a call to arms, reinforcing their mission and the weight of their choice. It was time to act, face those ancient secrets, and accept the sacrifice that could bring hope back to the world. The future started there, caught between shadows and light. The eclipse hit its peak as Vivana held the key of destiny in her trembling hands, feeling the pulsing energy that seemed to consume everything around her. It was the moment of truth, a sacrifice that had to be made to restore balance and bring a new dawn. She looked at Riven and Ilara, her most loyal allies, and saw in their eyes the same mix of fear, hope, and determination. In that instant, they understood, no matter how dark the road got, they were in this fight together for the legacy and the future they deserved. With a deep breath, Vivana activated the relic, releasing a wave of light that cut through the eclipse's shadows and started pushing back the darkness, threatening to swallow the world. The ancient energy, loaded with ancestral secrets and sacrifices from the guardians before her, flowed like a river of hope, lighting up everything around. But this light didn't come. The power from the artifact drained her life force, showing that her sacrifice wasn't just symbolic, it was real and irreversible. Riven stepped up to protect her, bravely facing the hidden forces still trying to snuff out the light. His muscles tense, eyes fierce, he was the guardian spirit, carrying the weight of the world even when his body begged to quit. Every strike he threw was a silent scream against ruin, a promise that hope wouldn't die. Ilara used her cunning and speed to guard the group, proving even hearts scarred by mistakes could shine bright when driven by the will to redeem. As the battle raged on, Vivana felt her bond with the Aurora strengthen, linking past and present, light and shadow, sacrifice and rebirth. She realized the real power of that moment wasn't brute strength, but accepting destiny and having the courage to move forward even when all seemed lost. It was proof of what being a guardian means, fighting not just for today, but for the legacy left to future generations. When the eclipse finally started to fade, a new light broke on the horizon, soft but unshakable. The darkness that had ruled the sky gave way to a hopeful dawn, a symbol of the resurgence everyone had prayed for. Vivana, worn out but victorious, smiled at her companions, knowing the sacrifice made that night had reignited the flame of hope. The world was far from perfect, but the road to rebuilding was open, and they'd be the guardians of this new beginning. After the storm had passed and everything went quiet, Riven, Vivana, and Alara really felt how deep their bond was. They weren't just allies, they were family, forged through the fire of sacrifice and fighting against the forces trying to wipe out the Aurora legacy. Destiny threw them together, and now they had this sacred mission to protect the light they'd brought back, ready to face any shadow that dared show up again. Their battle wounds still burned, but hope was stronger than ever. Vivana knew there'd be plenty more fights ahead, and sacrifice wasn't something you do just once. It was a constant grind, a daily reminder that the fight for the light takes guts and strength to keep going, even when the world feels like it's falling apart. But right then, her heart was full of faith. Faith in the legacy, friendship, and the promise of a better future. Before they left, Vivana took one last look at the Key of Destiny, realizing it was way more than just some artifact. It was a symbol of the sacrifices the Guardians had made and would keep making. It was hope wrapped up in metal and magic, ready to be passed down to the next generations. The cycle of life, sacrifice, and rising again would go on, led by the courage of those who choose to fight for the light. And so, as the sun slowly climbed up in the sky, lighting up the renewed land, Vivana, Riven, and Alara set off, ready for whatever came next. The legacy of the Guardians of Aurora was alive, beating strong inside them, an eternal flame that would never let the world slip into darkness. The sacrifice was made, the secret revealed, and hope was reborn. A new chapter waiting to be written, full of challenges, adventures, and most of all, courage. The legacy they carry isn't just some old story. It's a living flame burning inside each of them, and now inside all of us, following their journey. 'Cause deep down, we're all guardians of something bigger, ready to stand up against the hidden forces that threaten our dreams and ideals. Their sacrifice reminds us that nothing worth having comes easy, and hope is the fuel for every comeback. As the sun rises again over this renewed land, one thing's clear: this story ain't over. New challenges will come, new battles will be fought, and more ancient secrets will be uncovered. The cycle of destiny is far from finished, and the Guardian's path stays wide open, waiting for those brave enough to keep moving forward. If you dug this story, don't forget to drop a comment, hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell for more stories like this. Catch you in the next video.